Hello, so welcome to stage 32, and this is fitting the wheel, and we're actually going to be fitting two wheels because if you remember issue 27 we made the other wheel which is the wheel to go here, but we didn't want to install because we didn't want the whole thing uneven. So this week we're going to be putting two wheels on, which is issue 27 catch up and 32 for real. So let's go through the parts for 32 and 32A. We have this well, they call it wheel trim, I call it a valve cap. We obviously will be needing the wheel from last week. We also need 32A, sorry, that's why they've called it the wrong thing. We've got the wheel trim. Sorry, I'm just having a lot of trouble with the light today. So we have the wheel trim, and then we have the 32B, which is the valve. And I've had a lot of trouble with these valves because they're so small and fiddly, so be very careful. 32C we have a washer, and 32D we have the brake plate, and it looks to me like perhaps mine is damaged. I'm not sure. It might be okay actually. Just get that into focus. I'm pretty sure that tab should be longer, but we'll find out in a moment. So 32E is the handbrake actuating lever, which is this one piece, and I can see now that the previous piece isn't broken. That lump is actually a locating tab, so ignore what I said previously about the possibly broken parts. And then that leaves us with the front brake lines, which is this piece of tubing here, and I do just occasionally just give it a bit of a roll just to try and straighten it out. But otherwise you could give that a quick blast of something warm and just remold that. And then we also have, which I put in my pots, CM 2x4mm screws. Now they give you two, we're only going to need one, and that's fine because that gives us one for the other wheel. So what we're going to be doing first of all is we're going to be taking our chassis. No, let's do the actual wheel first and we can put two on at once. So the first thing we need to do is to take the handbrake actuating lever and the brake plate, and then what we need to do is holding it in this position with most of the detail at the bottom and the little pin there, and then what we need to do is with our hole to the left, and we've got a little pin there on the right, and in the middle on the back we've got a locating peg, and that will go into place. That small pin there will go over the hole, and then the pin on the back will go into the hole on the actual brake plate. Now this is a push fit connection, and in all fairness that's probably the stiffest one that I remember. So that's just gone in like that, absolutely perfect. And then step 2, we take the rear brake line 32F, and with a little bit of eyesight and a little bit of patience we just pop that brake line onto there like so. There we go. Nothing difficult and nothing we haven't done before. So the next thing we need to do, and this is always the tricky piece for me, we need to take this valve cap and we need to place the skinny end into the hole in the wheel. Now I've used tweezers for this before, and I've found it's actually pinged, flown off in a random direction. So what I've done this time quite successfully is I've just pushed it in by hand. If you cannot do it by hand, then obviously you can't do it by hand, but I found that having tweezers, sometimes it just grips them and it slips and then it just flies off, and I've lost a few of these, and I've just had to buy replacements or try to make one, fashion one out of a piece of sprue or something, and it's just a lot of work that you really possibly don't need. Right, so what we're going to do then is we are going to fit these onto the chassis, and I think we will fit stage 32 first, and then we'll go back to stage 37. Okay, so my apologies for keep chopping and changing my mind, and we are going to do issue 27 first, and the reason for this is simply that it isn't just a case of straightforward putting the wheel on, we then have to connect this brake line up as well. So the first thing we need to do here is, and I've got a piece of masking tape that just won't let go. Right, so with the tubing to the front, off center, we're going to place that on, and we're just going to slip that underneath, and there's a small locating peg just next to the wheel, which is there, and what we're aiming to do is put that locating peg through that hole there. Now it probably won't hold on, and that's absolutely fine, but we must make sure that's in place when we actually pop the wheel in. So this is my wheel from stage 27. I think in reality it doesn't matter which wheel goes on where, and you can see there I've actually got the washer in place already, but if you don't have the washer in place, all we're doing is waiting for the focus. I do apologise, this has real trouble focusing white, so we just get the washer and we pop that in the middle like that. Doesn't matter which way round. Now trying to keep this brake disc in place, which is easier said than done. Now I did want to say, if it comes out of place, just rotate it until it's in place. Right, there we go, that's in place. So the washer that's fallen out we can now pop back in. In fact, I'm not going to place that in just yet. So the next thing, we want a CM screw, and instead I'm actually going to place the CM screw over the washer as we pop it in. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to find that and just find the bite point. And you see I've been propping it up with this piece of rolled up cardboard. That's just to keep the mud guards more than anything off the ground, and the mud guards do unfortunately stick out and down, but and all I'm going to do is just holding it however best for me. I'm just going to screw this up so that we don't get too much wheel wobble, but at the same time we still get the wheel moves. And there, I've got a bit of wheel wobble. I've got quite a lot actually. I don't know if I'm happy with that. I think I am. Yeah, now the reason I'm happy with that, a lot of people would say, oh, that's terrible. Remember, it is a model. If this was a toy that I was going to be pushing around the ground and playing with, then I would be saying yes, unacceptable. But I think that's absolutely fine. It rotates, it does what it's meant to do. In fact, actually I've got a bigger problem with the front. because the front's on way too tight, but I'll deal with that another time. Right, so that's that wheel on, and then we'll just finish the actual wheel off with a cap. And all we're going to do is we're just going to pop this in here, push it in. It kind of, you can kind of feel a resistance when it's going in, but that's that in. Trying to cast a bit of a shadow over it. Right, so the last thing we want to do to this wheel is we need to turn it upside down, and yeah, bear with me a sec, guys. So my apologies, I did make a bit of a hash up. I actually put this wheel on the wrong side. I had put it on this side, and it is extremely important that you change it and put it on the correct side, and that's because of this. So if you can see that we've got this line on the left, this brake line there, and then you see we've got this detail on the top. Now we've got the smaller detail on the bottom. Now if we placed that on the wrong side, we would then have to turn the detail around, which means the detail is upside down. So you can see that although the peg is still on the left hand side, the detail's now on the bottom. So I did just change that around, and I did do that off camera, for which I apologise, but I thought it would just be easy to do it off camera and admit my mistake. So the next thing we need to do for stage 27, which is this one. Now if you're following along with the magazine, you'll see that my wheel is on the wrong side compared to the instructions. That's because the instructions are working with this with the rear of the vehicle away from you. I'm actually working with it towards me. I just think it's a little bit easier. So if we have a look there, and I'll just bring the chassis up there, you'll see that there's two locating pegs there, and that's follows along there. So what we want to do now is we want to thread this cable underneath the suspension, and because the way that this wire has curled, that's a little bit difficult. There we go. So what we want to do now is we want to thread this onto that first peg closest to the wheel. Now what I'm considering there, that sits very nicely naturally there, and I'm just considering cutting this. The only problem with cutting is that cutting is very final, but do you know what, let's do it. Let's do it. So sharp scissors or a knife, I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to need tweezers. There is absolutely no doubt about it. So if you just let me have the time to discover which of my new drawers I actually put my tweezers in. There we go. So pair of tweezers. I don't know how easy or hard this is going to be. I know sometimes these tubes are difficult to put on, and oh sorry, I forgot to put a cover on the wheel. So what should have been an easy issue is not. Right. I think by the time I finish this, I probably would have turned it in the orientation of the magazine. Right, I need to hold it much closer to the end. I don't know if you guys can still see what I'm doing. Right, okay, this is proving difficult, so I might just resort to the cocktail trick. So I've never used the cocktail trick for the Fiat build. I used it an awful lot for the Ecto 1 build. Now if you have trouble getting tubes on, as I am here, I get myself a pointy cocktail stick, and then I just, bear with me a sec, I breathe on that tube. A good friend of mine calls it the Hinging bracket technique. You just breathe on that or something just to warm it up, and you need to just pop the cocktail stick into the end there, and then just push that on, and that's just going to temporarily widen that hole. It will kind of stretch back a little bit, so don't worry you haven't made it too big, and it would help actually if we got the wire ready. So there we go, that's gone on. Oh, that's come off again. It's gone on a treat and then it's fallen off a treat. There we go guys, so that is issue 27, fingers crossed, done. Except that the wire's come up too high, or the tube has come up too high. There we go, that's tucked in. So that's 27 complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the wheel for 32 in exactly the same way, and then I'll meet up with you with regards to the tube. Okay, so what I've done is I've popped that wheel on, I've popped the little tube through. I had a little bit of trouble where the wobble and the turning is that there's trade-off. If you tighten it too much, the wheel won't turn, but there'll be no wobble. But if you don't turn it enough, there'll be plenty of movement on the wheel, but it will wobble. So I'm just having a play now. I think, yeah, it doesn't seem to want to go in too well. It's kind of lopsided, so I wonder if perhaps I just haven't put a part in properly. Maybe I put the screw in at an angle. Maybe it just didn't. You see, look, it's rubbed off all the paint, so maybe there was just too much paint on there, and it just needs working in. So I'll try that again. Yeah, okay, so there's a bit of a wobble there, but the wheels rotate. You see that they're going at a funny angle. So I think what I'm going to do for my model, whoops, that could have been worse, couldn't it? I think I'm going to do that wheel quite tight. It doesn't seem to want to go any tighter than that. Yeah, it is the back wheel. I'm not going to be pushing this along the ground a lot, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I don't know if we'd put that down to a default from model space or if I've done something wrong, but to be honest with you, I'm not unhappy with that. I think that's absolutely fine. I say it doesn't really rotate, but you know, we're not going to be pushing it along the ground like a kid's toy, so I'm really not that bothered. Right, so what we need to do now then is this needs to go underneath there, and it needs to join up with if you remember where we put the the tube for issue 27, this needs to go on to the next peg. Now I'm going to automatically assume that this isn't going to fit, so I'm going to go straight in with my cocktail stick trick, and I'm just going to pop the cocktail stick in the end there, and we're just going to make that a little bit wider and then take it out. So we've just stretched it just a little tiny bit, not too much, just enough to go over that peg, and then over a little bit of time, maybe overnight, maybe a couple of hours, it will just relax back into its natural position. And I'm sorry guys, I'm going to struggle to get this so you can see it, but obviously again this is a trade-off. If I do it in such a way that you can see it, I can't, and if I do it so that I can see it, you may not be able to. Right, so I think that's gone on. Now that's come off again. So I think you really need to get it as close to the end as you can. It's a shame we can't get this engine block out, because that would give us so much more space to work in. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. So there we go. So it is slightly too long, but not so long that I can't live with it. And it should actually have gone underneath there. So that, yeah, that wire should actually have gone underneath that, but I'm going to leave that because there aren't really any working parts other than the suspension here, so it's not going to interfere. So we've got one wheel on with the brake line going to there, and we've got another wheel on there with the brake line going to there. So that is it. So now the moment of truth, we place this the correct way round, and voila, we now have a stable base. That I'm very happy with. There's a little bit of give in the middle, but I think that's expected for a two-piece chassis. And of course what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding pieces to the side as the build comes up. If any of you have seen my Route Master build, you'll see that as we did pieces, they were very flimsy because they were two pieces put together, but as we made things up, added pieces, it added a lot of strength. Remember that this is essentially a box, and a box is strong because it has 6 sides. This only has 1 side, so we've still got another 5 sides to put on. So yes guys, that is my Fiat 126 complete up to issue 32, and I'm very happy with this. So I will end the video here, and I will hope to see you next week when we do stage 33, the left engine cover. Thank you for watching guys, take care, bye bye.